Hello homemakers and welcome to episode 4 of the Baking 101 series. This episode is all about raising and leavening agents used in baking. If you've missed the previous episode, check out the Baking 101 series playlist or click the link showing up at the top of your screen. Raising agents are very important in baking. They're what I think of as the magic ingredients that get your cakes and baked goods to rise. If you haven't subscribed, please can you take a moment and hit the subscribe button now. Thank you very much. Let's start off looking at the science of the two important raising agents in baking. Baking soda is also known as bicarbonate of soda, and it requires an acid and a liquid to work. When it's activated, it creates carbon dioxide bubbles, and this is what causes your cakes to rise. In contrast, baking powder is a complete leavening agent as it already contains a base and an acid, so it will work just on its own. One important question that I commonly get asked is, are they the same? Are they interchangeable? And the answer is no. They are two very different ingredients. So you cannot substitute baking soda for baking powder and vice versa because they are made of different ingredients and they work differently. One important tip is make sure that your raising agents are in date. So make sure you always check the expiry date. If you use baking powder or bicarbonate of soda that is out of date, then they will not function as intended and your cakes or your baked goods may not rise and bake properly. Another important thing to point out is that it is important to use the specified quantity of your raising agent. If you use too little, your cakes will not rise properly. If you use too much, you upset the chemistry of baking and you will have a cake that will not taste nice. So stick to the quantities as specified in your recipe. Yeast and gelatin are two other ingredients that I'm going to cover on this episode. Now, yeast is a great leavening agent. It's more commonly used for bread making or pastry making, less so for making cakes. Yeast is actually a live organism that converts sugar to carbon dioxide, and it's this process that gives the leavening effect when used for bread and pastry making. There are different types of yeast, so stick to the one that is specified in your recipe. Gelatin is not so much a leavening agent, but it does help to thicken and set things that are liquid or semi-liquid. It's often used in making things like jelly, mousse and ice cream. So not so much for cakes, but these sort of things, gelatin works well. And classically, it's also used for making cheesecake. So there's some tips for when using gelatin. Make sure that you use the quantity stated in the recipe. If you use too much, it will set rock solid. And if you use too little, then it will not set properly. So it's important to stick to the quantity stated in your recipe. Also, when using gelatin, it's a two-step process. One, it has to be rehydrated by first dissolving it in cold water. Then it must be dissolved in a hot liquid. And lastly, gelatin needs time to work. So you've got to put your dessert in the fridge for anything from 8 to 24 hours to set. So the learning point is always stick to the quantity specified in your recipe. Most times your raising agents are not interchangeable, so don't swap them around. And make sure that you check that your raising or your leavening agents are in date. If it's out of date, don't use it. Otherwise, your cake or your baked goods may not come out as intended. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to check out the other videos in the Baking 101 series, and please subscribe. I will see you next week for episode 4. Bye.